controversial subjects with the facts can be tense, but we are A$AP Science here to make things make sense.
My favorite thing, sleep.
It really is.
It is, and for a good reason. Sleep's important. And no, I actually think most of my problems in life can link to poor sleep quality.
Wow.
Maybe not most, but a lot of like just feeling crappy. I realize it is always linked to sleep when I'm feeling like overly anxious, sad, depressed, angry, all the negative emotions. I am able to often go like, yeah, you just haven't been getting the good sleep that you need.
For you, what is a good night's sleep as an adult, a 33-year-old man? It's going to be different for teenagers.
Yeah, that's true. But to me, it is not just about the amount of hours. I always try to aim for around 8 hours, sometimes push it even more if I've got the time. But just getting that isn't enough for me because sometimes I just have a worse sleep.
So how do you tell? Is it like you woke up a bunch the night before?
Yeah, it might be a mix of me actually consciously remembering not sleeping well, or just sometimes I just wake up and I'm like, maybe I was having sleep apnea last night. Maybe I was like grinding my teeth. Like I don't always know, but sometimes I'm just like, I don't feel as alert or good today. And I just kind of tag it to that, but I don't always know. I didn't know I had sleep apnea until I went and got tested. And then they were like, sleep on your side.
Because you love sleep science, sleep like research. You made that viral video, how to fall asleep in 2 minutes. But you don't seem like someone who has trouble falling asleep, which is really good.
I know, but that's also concerning because they say if someone who can fall asleep in 10 or 15 minutes is usually sleep deprived.
Wait, what?
Yeah, if you can fall asleep
every day.
that I can fall asleep literally in minutes. No, you can't. You're so bad at falling asleep.
I thought that. Wow, drag me.
You are, aren't you?
No. I think I'm like
You're always like, oh, you're like tossing and turning, and like I feel like if you do you not think you're bad at sleeping?
No, I don't. Like I'm like you can say that I am, but like I don't think I am. And I feel like 10 to 15 minutes is like I definitely feel for the most part I fall asleep within 10 to 15 minutes. And I kind of thought that was like an amazing thing, but it actually means that maybe I'm not, that I'm too tired.
I mean, if you have a really good sleep schedule, that could maybe change that. I just have heard that like usually it does take some time, and also like getting into dreaming sleep really fast, I think is also a sign that maybe your body's like, oh my God, I need to sleep. But lots of people can take them like 20, half an hour just to fall asleep. Some people, it's like an hour or more. They just lay in bed till they fall asleep. But I do think having a consistent schedule is the most important thing, where your body just knows everything starts. Like your body goes through so many internal processes to start sleeping that if it's the same every day, it just like starts before you even get in bed.
It is so freaking weird that we even sleep in general. Like, it's just so weird. I know that every animal does. And it's just like a weird biological process of life on Earth that just sort of like exists. You know what I mean? Like, there's a world in the universe that like sleep isn't necessarily an aspect of life. But it really is. Like, birds are even sleeping. Like, animals are sleeping. Like, even like a lot of become obsessed with birding, and you're talking about this all the time. A lot of birds that are resting like on a branch, they now think are like doing their versions of sleeping, even though you might just be like, oh, that's just a robin kind of like, chilling. But it's like, no, it's actually like in sleeping. Some form of sleep. Yeah. And like almost all like mammals, I think it's more of a mammalian thing. Like they kind of are like, they have their own versions of sleep. Like it's so interesting. Like we are just pushing ourselves.
However, something I've learned, fun fact about sleep, is that mammals in the ocean don't sleep the same way. Because they they don't dream. And it's like amphibians or animals that can do both water and land have dreams on land. Isn't that interesting? Because when you're in REM sleep, your body paralyzes itself, so you don't act out dreams or you don't like move. And obviously that can be broken, and some people sleepwalk and things like that. But for the most part, only your eyes can move, and so it's not viable for an animal in the ocean to stop moving.
Yeah, and that's why like you hear about like sharks
to be like static
sleep while they like
there's a different form of sleep. Like they're not going into REM sleep. They probably can still sleep. It's just not REM sleep. Anyway, like so this is all going to relate to school, because obviously, and many of you watching or listening have either experienced this or are currently experiencing it, where you're like waking up early is so hard, especially when you're young, both for grade school, especially in like the high school era, but also leading into, I would say, even university as well.
So my study is about migraines because I get migraines and I was obsessed with it. And it was saying that only this issue of early start time was for middle school to high school. They did not think that this, at least in their opinion, from past research and their own research, that it affected people grade 6 and earlier. They think that they should be going to school early. So like that also, I don't know about your studies, but my golden times of the study were that.
What does it mean, golden times?
Like they were like, everything was about 8:30 a.m. They were saying school should not start before 8:30 a.m., which I even was like, that still seems early.
Like, that's early.
But everything I found, all the research I found was about 8:30 a.m. As they said, a majority of schools in America start before 8:30 a.m. And all they're pushing for is to have school for middle schoolers and high school start at 8:30. And I was like, that doesn't even seem that much later. Like, it's like, let's just do that.
Well, we will talk more about that in my study. Like I think you should talk about yours first because I'm curious to see and hear your thoughts on what I will say about what the start time should be.
Yes. Okay. So teens who are defined as sleep deficient, according to my study, was 8 hours or less because they need more sleep than any other human being at the time because they're growing insanely. Their face is cracking. Right. They're popping out pubes. Their hormones. They're like absolutely eating like dummying bags of cookies and chips and growing like 6 feet tall. And like it's just like a crazy time. And so because of early starting time, the study says like there's a lot of issues because they're overly tired, and then they can link it to risky behavior, cigarette use, alcohol use. I think a large reason why there's car crashes in teenagers, which is like a huge killer of teenagers, is because they're overly tired. So that's their justifications for doing these studies, and their justifications for being like, seriously, should we regulate school starting later? But this was just about migraines in high schoolers. So this was grade 9 to 12. It was just surveys where they got people to say what time they started school and then talk about their lifestyle. So it wasn't like they made a school start late and a school start early and measure. They just found out people's start time. And everyone who was in the late group or who started 8:30 a.m. or later had lower headache frequency, lower amounts of migraines, like very significantly. And that was even adjusting for the total hours of sleep, the amount of sex, any migraine prevention they were doing, medication use, hours of homework, grade level, whether or not they ate. It was like the time of day was the main reason why these kids had way less headaches. And on top of that, migraines. And migraines, like going through them, are very physiological. Like, you know when you have one. And I was just like, that's interesting. Like, above all else, I'm like, you don't want teenagers to have headaches or migraines.
Yeah.
Starting at 8:30 a.m. I was like, that's
so that was
not even
correlated with start time of school being 8:30.
It was 8:30 and later, so that'd be the late group, and then 8:30 and earlier. So say it was 8:15, you'd be in the early group.
Okay.
So they defined 8:30 as even just that being the time that they should push for.
That's so fascinating because you get migraines. Do you think they're linked to sleep at all?
So
and does that make you think that maybe they might be in a way that you may not know?
Yeah, like I find that migraines are so freaking weird, and I read science articles about them all the time, and it's really exhausting because they don't know like why they know what happens in your brain, and it's absolutely disgusting. Like, it is so intense. They explain how like the neurons and like the pressure actually builds from the front, moves to the back, so they can really study migraines now from a neurological reason. The big thing they don't understand is like why people are getting them. So and how to prevent them. One reason why is that it's way more prominent in women, so there's a lot of misogyny there, like in the history of medicine,
to like not even spend time looking at it, basically.
Yeah, they literally, like, sociologists have studied this, men just ignored it, and like a lot of like, oh, women are hysterical, women are complaining, like it's just a headache. No, it's like a very serious thing. So we're really behind on migraine research due to misogyny in science, which is just like an interesting thing to understand. But where we're at now, we can know what's happening, but why is something that you kind of have to figure out for yourself. So for my migraine journals, things I notice are lack of food. Like, Mitch knows I'm crazy. Like, first thing in the morning, I have to get like oatmeal in me quick. Hydration is another thing I've noticed sometimes. If I'm dehydrated, I'm like, fuck. And then it happens. Change in pressure in the day. And then sometimes I'll like link it to sleep, but usually if I've ever stayed up late, I've usually had alcohol or marijuana. Like it's like I never just like stay up. I'm not a person who stays up late for fun without anything. So then it's hard for me to adjust the lack of sleep because it usually just comes with like partying. So I've noticed it from a lack of sleep, but I usually am thinking I'm like dehydrated, had alcohol.
There's like multiple factors that that play into that sleep in the first place.
But some people it's chocolate. And then sometimes I'm like, I guess I had like a better chocolate cut. Like it's just like it's so hard because there's like so many. I know there's so many things that you could be your thing, and I think people who get migraines get better and better at figuring out what it is for them. But for me, sleep has not really been one I've been. Like, oh, it's the sleep.
You don't tag it directly to that.
Yeah.
Well, sleep is so interesting because it's one of those things that people, even when they're sleep deprived, don't believe they're cognitively impaired and don't feel it. Like, I'm not saying this is why we get migraines at all, but I'm just saying sleep is sometimes that thing that there are lots of people that get 5 or 6 hours of sleep a night and go, it's fine. I'm totally fine with 5 or 6 hours.
I can't believe that.
Oh, I could never. And even for one night, I'm like, I want to die. But some people function on that and think that they're normal. Like,
think they're normal.
They're at their baseline normal of functioning. But like basically every study shows that if you're getting less like 6 to 5 hours of sleep, you're cognitively impaired compared to what you would be if you were getting 8 hours of sleep.
There's those people who are just so smart because like they talk about getting 6 to 5 hours of sleep and they're like so productive and they're so smart and they do so much. I'm like, imagine you got full sleep.
They say there are some like a very small percentage, and I can't remember exactly how small.
Einstein vibes
of people who don't need sleep. Yeah, there's like a genetic predisposition, and of course it's a bell curve. So there's like some people who probably need like the 10 hours of sleep to function at their best. And then there are these like very extreme versions of people that can survive on 4 hours and seem to be unaffected. But that is almost definitely not you.
Yeah, it's not you, hon. You're
listening or watching, it's like really probably not.
And it's certainly not teenagers.
It's not teenagers. Teenagers need so much sleep. Before I talk about my stuff, I'm curious, do you remember when your school started?
Yeah, it started, like, this is why I kind of felt like 8:30 wasn't that late, because I kind of feel like we started at 8:45 and went until 3:45 in high school.
Wow.
Which also the 3:45 thing, I'm like, girl, that is early. Like
3:45 to end
school ends early.
I think my school ended at 2:30.
What?
Maybe it was 3:30. I feel like at some point it was 2:30, but I think maybe it was 3:30.
Oh my god, the Catholic school board.
No, but I think we started at 7:45. I don't remember for sure.
Yeah, no.
I honestly, you know me, I have no memory of anything in my life ever happening. So I might be
2:30. That's wild. You must have had fifth period off.
Maybe I did. No, I think my guess is that we started around 8, and that 7:45 was when you had to like get to class, and 8 was when class
that's
started.
Early.
But maybe I'm wrong about that. And then I have also memories of school also ending at 3:20. So I don't know if that was grade school versus high school. Like I'm not totally sure which one I'm thinking of.
When I was a teacher, it started at 8. And it was early, and I was
even now I find like to get somewhere at 8. It's early. So you have to wake up, get ready, travel, get there. I'm like,
we've like not done that in years.
I know. I wake up at 8.
Yeah.
Like then I give myself time to get ready.
Yeah. Kids are at school.
Some of them are like working at 7:30.
No, that is wrong. That's illegal.
That's illegal.
We're here, kids, to tell you that should be illegal.
Okay, I wanted to share some interesting information. Like there's so much out there. Obviously, I'm fascinated by sleep. But first, I wanted to talk about like babies versus teenagers versus adults and what they need. So what they have found that babies, even in the womb, spend so much time in REM sleep. And over time, they've realized like as we get older, we get more NREM sleep, which is like non-REM sleep. I don't know why I had to short form that. But just before puberty, non-REM sleep peaks. So right when we're going into puberty, it's like at its highest. And the belief is that this REM sleep helps to literally create neurons. It's like building the scaffolding of your brain. And like basically what a baby needs is like, here, get all this stuff. And then that REM sleep is actually pruning and starting to go like, okay, how do we actually make this more efficient, make these connections faster? And so non-REM sleep is like, now you've got your brain, let's make it the best version. And that's where like the individual you starts to like populate even more. And
but
so
when's that happening? Like
that's like into puberty, and during puberty, your non-REM sleep is becoming more and more part of like what you're doing.
Like,
and then as you phase out of teenage years, it actually comes down and you balance out between the extremes of like a baby and a teenager.
So like a baby is way more REM.
Way more REM. Yeah, it's like almost all REM.
Pre-puberty, puberty, there's more NREM.
Yeah, and so what they've realized is that the non-REM sleep is directly correlated to kids having increased cognitive development, reasoning, and critical skills. Even brain scans have shown, and I know we've talked about this before, how like the front regions of the brain are like associated with rational thinking and stuff.
Prefrontal cortex.
Yeah, teens don't develop, and you're
And
like, why?
you can tell.
Yeah, why are they like crazy, taking risks, all these things?
Oh my God, when I was teaching kids, the amount of times as a science teacher, I'd just be like, girl, I would like tell them to their face, I'd be like, your prefrontal cortex isn't developed. Don't do that. Like I would just be like, your brain is literally underdeveloped. And they would give me these like weird looks and they're like almost like that was really harsh. But they'd kind of also be like wait,
you're probably right.
Kind of like like you're a science teacher and that kind of makes me feel a bit better.
Yeah, it's funny to think back to that time and try and remember what it felt like to. It's not. I don't really remember.
You don't really like
Classic.
cognitively like. No, I'm just like I would take so many risks.
Yeah.
Like but you don't realize you're even taking a risk because your prefrontal cortex isn't developed. Like you know what I mean? Like even socializing. Like I would go to like obviously it's very scary to go to a party, but I would like go to a park party.
Yeah, you just be like, yeah, I'm gonna just go and even
like,
though you're scared, but you do it. Yeah,
like if someone was like, go to a park party now, I'd be like, hell no.
Yeah,
I'm not
like, do I know
dark
90% of the people there? Then I'm not
bullies.
going.
Like I'm not going there. Like,
ew, I have so many gross memories. I'm like going to a party and being like, literally, my bullies are here.
Yeah. Whereas now, as an adult, imagine someone's like, you have to go to a party where there's bullies of you. You'd be like, no, I'm not going there. That's so scary.
Isn't it so messed? Like I still think about my like grade school and high school bullies. Like,
where are they now, Mitch?
I don't know. Hopefully dead.
Wow, that's a harsh bully.
No, hopefully not bullies. And then there's that trope in movies where like the bully comes up and it's like, oh, yo, man, like we used to be such good friends. Like the bully never realizes that they bullied you.
Has anyone ever done that because of ASAP Science?
Not like an extreme version of my bully, but definitely people that I'm like, we weren't friends and you were kind of mean to me. Because I also like feel that probably also as a kid that was like kind of queer and got called gay and stuff. Like there were probably people who wouldn't have otherwise been mean, but were like socially defending themselves by like calling.
And probably don't remember being like, you're gay. Because like everyone was saying it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like probably just nothing to them.
Honestly,
I going home and crying.
I look at my bullies and I'm like, wow, they're pretty busted. Like I'm kind of like,
really,
they're like busted and they have like really messed up morals. Like I'm not even kidding. Like they're like all like weird, like they're like on Facebook. Like they're like those Facebook like dads. Like it's so weird. And then they all have daughters now. And I'm like, but you're a misogynist. Like you're an open misogynist. Like it's like I don't really have a bully that I remember. Like I remember them who is now like this really nice changed person.
You don't have that experience?
Yeah, I maybe because I have looked at specific people who are so mean to me and I'm like, they're actually like so weird still. And I'm like, whoa. like you know what I mean? Like bullying we should do one on bullying.
Yeah,
like there must be a correlation between some brain. I bet the bully
who ain't
sleeping.
Maybe they never develop.
Bullies ain't sleeping, that's for sure.
They didn't sleep. Well, and not that I'll go into this, but a lot of disorders are linked to sleep problems. They've realized over time, even things like schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, ADHD, they think is somehow linked to childhood sleeping problems.
Childhood or teen or both? Childhood,
I think, was what was said in the book that I read, but that it's like that's the time your brain is like developing so much. So anyway, I was going to say in terms of the development of the brain and the non-REM sleep, it's like they can literally see the brain develops from back to front. And that's why also like the rational part is the last part to like prune and like develop properly and just like make better connections.
That's kind of interesting.
Yes. So how does this also more facts about teenagers and their sleep? So basically, when you move into your teenage years during puberty, your circadian rhythm literally changes around 1 to 3 hours more. So you are like, instead of going to bed at 10 p.m., you're naturally getting tired at 1 a.m. If like as an example.
That's crazy.
Whereas parents don't understand this. Yeah. I mean, they have all gone through it, but they forget and they think it's a choice. Yeah. But it's like literally kids are just when they're little babies or children, it's actually even earlier. So that's why like your nephew goes to bed at like 8 or 7 p.m. or whatever.
So their circadian rhythm is often the fact that they want to stay up later and also they want to sleep in, right?
Yeah, so they need more sleep and their circadian rhythm is different. But I mean, it's not even so much they need so much more sleep. It's just that if your body's naturally wanting to go to bed at like midnight or 1 to get your good 8 hours or 9 hours of sleep or whatever, you're going to be pushed way past when you would naturally be asked to wake up for school.
Also, my study said that the people would actually go to bed earlier when they had later start times, and their prediction was that teenagers get anxious because they can't fall asleep, and then they're like, I have to be up so early, and then that makes them not sleep.
So they're having like bad sleep.
That was them trying to justify, but I was like, that was interesting to me. Like, I find it a lot harder to fall asleep when I have to get up early.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
If you know you're like not falling asleep, and you're
Yeah.
just I remember being a night hawk. That's why I think I've always thought I was a night owl, or what even night hawk, I don't know. Obviously that's changed now. I feel like my natural predisposition alone would be to be a night owl because of our job.
So you mean like when you were a teenager, you remember I don't remember staying up late at
distinctly,
all.
like, and maybe because you always laugh at how your parents would wake you up so early.
No, I would
like I would truly sleep till 1 or 2 p.m.
Oh,
the
sorry.
weekends.
They would wait. That is, my parents would murder me. But it's not even only that. It's also my parents were like, you're going to bed so early. Like, I remember in the summer in Canada, just like staring out my window like a sad little boy, like hearing kids like playing in the playground. And my parents are like, yeah, you have to go to bed. I'm like, it's broad daylight. And I was like old enough to like see my friends like bouncing on trampoline in their backyards and being like,
that's so sad.
like, and they're like, no, it's bedtime. I'm like, are you sure? Because the sun ain't set.
So then this is for your parents. They should have let you stay up and go to bed later. But I understand that there's like, you're trying to regulate your kids, and it's like your kids don't always know what's best for them. And so you assume it's better for them to get enough sleep. It's worse if you go to bed late and wake up early. So they probably were just being like, we'd rather you have a consistent schedule.
Sleep. Yeah.
And I'm not trying to like drag your parents too hard.
It.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I had like too much missing out trauma, although I do have FOMO, and it's probably from staring out the window seeing trampoline babies. But I do feel like I never in high school on a weeknight ever stayed up past 11. And I never had any. Oh my God. And I never.
High school?
Never. At 10:45, I remember being like anxiety, and I'd be like meditating, listening to Radiohead, being like sleep. And then I would like sleep. I would always be asleep by 11. And I remember like MSN, like, you know, people would be like, what's up at like 10:30? And I'd be like, bedtime. Like, that's what's up. Like, and I knew that. And like, sometimes I would like, I don't know, maybe log into MSN. Like maybe I once or twice, like getting up to go to the bathroom and like seeing that people are like on MSN at like
logging in, dude,
like, and being like, what? So I definitely would. I never felt like I needed to sleep at 1. I always felt I needed to sleep at 11. But so maybe
you might have also, because this did say like there's a range of that circadian change.
So
right?
you
like,
feel like you felt it. Like when you were in high school, you're like,
oh, for sure. I would be told to go to bed, and then I would sneak up after my parents went to bed just to be up and like go play on the computer. Sleep? Yeah, I mean, some of it might have been that I was like addicted to a computer game. I have like vivid memories of a specific game that I would stay up and play. But
like
it's
how late?
I wasn't tired. Like sometimes till like 2 or 3 a.m. But that wouldn't be like the regular. But definitely I was like going to bed. And same kind of thing. My parents were probably like, go to bed. When we go to bed, you can't stay up later than us because we can't then monitor if you're going to bed at all.
Yeah. So then when your alarm would go off to start your school at 8, that must have been hell.
Yeah, I remember always being really tired at school, even in university. And I know sometimes that's a mix of like partying, but I didn't party so much in university. And I remember like consciously after first semester choosing all the later start times.
Oh my God. I had so many 8:30 classes. I don't even think I went to one. I would just go to the 2 p.m. one. And the 2 p.m. classes,
so full.
Everyone would be sitting in the aisles. There'd be like fire monitors coming, being like,
this
is illegal. And the poor professor would be like, I'm working way harder than whoever the 8:30 one is. Like, because like there's no kids in that. And then they'd always be like, who isn't supposed to be here? And I'd just like be on Perez Hilton, like, no, I'm not going to respond to that. But for sure, it's me.
Ratting myself out.
Yeah, like I'd never even been to, I don't even know who my professor is.
Yeah, for reference, our like biology class in first year probably had like 2,400 kids, but the classes weren't that big. they could only hold maybe 600. And so they would have 3 times a day. And yes, as a result, the midday class, no one wanted the light one because everyone wanted to go party.
The midday class would have 2,400
people sitting
kids
on stairs.
yeah.
filling the rows on the ground everywhere. And
the energy was like an Ariana Grande concert. Like everyone was like lining up. Just like fucking like, let's learn about duck legs. Like it was just like everyone was happy to be there. They'd slept in. Yeah, no, like they shouldn't even have morning classes in university. You're still a teenager.
Is in the research, irrespective of culture or geography, it's during puberty. And puberty, as we know, like obviously it's very distinct around the age of say like 16 or 15 or whatever, but it runs its game until like 25, 26. Like a lot of things are still changing in your body. So it makes sense that I started university at 18. No, was I 17 when
I was
started?
16 because my birthday was...
No.
Yeah.
You were 17.
No.
No, because I could drink in my first year of university.
Oh, yeah, no, I was 17.
So you were 17.
Yeah.
No, you were 18.
No, I turned 17.
Oh, my God.
I turned 17 in September of my first year.
No.
Yes.
No, you turned 18 because then in March I
yes.
turned 19.
Yeah.
So you started university 17
I
years old.
always do this. Like to my parents, I'm like, my parents sent me to camp when I was 6. And they're like, no, we didn't.
They're like, you were 12.
You're such a liar. And they're yeah, well, I was 8. But then I would slowly be like, no, 7. No, 8. Anyway.
So... They measure kids' bodies, teenagers, and it's like there's a shift in their melatonin and their sleepiness time changes. Like it is biological. It's not just cultural. And they say that their peak wakefulness for a lot of teenagers is actually in the evening. So it's not only that they naturally would want to wake up later, it's that they're at their most alert in the evening. And the book that I was reading, my favorite book, Why We Sleep, said that asking a teen to wake up at 7 a.m. is like asking an adult to start at 4 a.m.
Whoa.
Isn't that crazy? The 3-hour difference. So you can understand why you can wake up at 4 a.m. It's just like extremely uncomfortable and requires like a lot of push through.
Okay, I honestly think we should do this. Should the two of us just like start like a grassworks movement?
There are
because I'm like,
for this.
I think this is smart. Like it's not that hard to just say 8:30 for high schools. Boom.
It is hard though. So what has happened,
Yeah,
I think,
what
is that
happened?
people's jobs correlate to this 9 to 5. So they need to have their kids out of the house earlier than that. You know,
But they're but we're only doing high school. Isn't that like a much less responsibility? Like your kids.
I guess there's still though that stress. Like when you
Yeah.
start high school, how old are you? Like 14 or something? Or I don't know. How old are you in high
Like
school?
12, 13. Like
No, 12 is grade 6.
Wait, are you
13,
serious?
14,
So then
15,
even more
15.
reason I'm like these teenagers
Yeah, they should for
have
sure,
autonomy to
I
walk to
think.
school or get on the bus to school.
And there's like so much experimental evidence to show that schools, like you said with the migraines, schools that start later, and like there's a school in Minnesota that literally only changed from 7:45 to 8:35. SAT scores went up 212 points.
Yeah, this one like scholar argued that there'd be $9 billion surplus in the American economy because
That could fix the climate crisis.
yeah, he said it's more than Major League Baseball makes in a year. They literally think because you would have higher graduation rates, you would have higher productivity, you would have like a more
Probably
quote unquote
happy,
successful
satisfied.
society because the kids are actually going to graduate and be better at school. And then also they think that the kids just aren't going to die because it's like car crashes.
Right.
Like it's really like many studies just kept talking about car crashes.
Yeah.
Like
I know it's
was
weird
like,
that's
what?
like one of the, I think, and maybe you're emphasizing this, like one of the highest risks for kids is car crashes.
Yeah, and I forget that because I grew up in Toronto. So people like dumb, like rich kids at our school would have cars and it was like, you're losers. But like most people were taking the TTC. And I just think you forget that America is just like this highway country where kids get cars when they're 16. And I'm just like,
Yeah,
no wonder
that's
they're all
young.
dying en masse. Like that's crazy. And it does make sense if they're constantly tired.
Yeah.
And then that's leading to issues of depression, drug abuse, all these other things that then you're mixing that with like vehicles and like commuting. And I'm just like, yeah.
I'm just searching this right now, and it is like unintended injuries are the main cause of death for teenagers.
And they don't have a prefrontal cortex.
Yeah.
They don't understand risk. Honestly.
Because they're not going to, I guess, like have a heart attack or cancer, like very likely. At
No,
that age, that
yeah.
it makes also sense that like injuries would be the biggest risk.
Gosh, we need to do this. Like, I'm just like, if I was a principal,
I know. I like forever. I had this dream, and Greg will know that I wanted to like try and get the schools near us to do it and like actually do an experiment to make a video out of it.
No,
that's never.
He's always like, "What do you think that'd be like?" I'm like, "I've worked in a school. Like, get ready for hell."
But think about how significant this is. Like,
it is really weird.
Like,
and interesting
to know that schools have higher IQs just by starting later, that the kids achieve more, that they're like happier, their reading and comprehension's higher, they have a more extensive vocabulary just by starting later.
And I think it's like, I know that the study I had was about middle school, but it's like, just do it for high school.
Yeah, at least
you don't have to worry about elementary
for sure
schools.
It is
just
the
leave
high
it.
school years that I remember having the hardest time.
And that seems also like the most challenging time with what you said, where parents want to get their kids who are young out the door on time to get to work. Fine. So we don't touch until grade 8. We only do grade 8 to grade 12 when the kids are getting themselves to school on their own.
Where did you go to school? Like grade 8 to grade 12?
Grade 9, sorry.
I'm just so curious because some people do have schools like that where they're like grade 7 to grade 12.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was like, no, yeah, I went to the same school until grade 8, and then I did grade 9 to 12. But yeah, some people have middle school, which is grade 6 to 8, which I say leave that too.
Okay, at least
let's just do high school.
The kids who are like in it.
Yeah, and I was a teacher
at night.
And I was a teacher of high school, and it was exhausting. And I wouldn't have minded starting at 9. You know what I mean? Like,
seriously,
I was
or at least
5:45.
having that extra buffer to go in and prep your classes.
Also, like grade 7 and 8, I taught them. They're insane. It's when puberty's starting, and they're actually like, it's like Big Mouth, like they're going crazy. And there's like funny education scholars who think that those kids should be taken out of school and do manual labor and then go back to school in grade 9 because there's really no point.
Like they just can't learn properly at that
like
stage.
It's such a ridiculous thing, but sometimes when I teach like grade 7s and 8s, I'm like, actually, like you would be better off. Like manual labor is like just playing games. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
it'd be better off
physical body
yeah,
movement.
Like, I don't need to teach you about atoms. Like, I'll teach you about atoms in grade 9.
Yeah.
Why don't you just literally like go run around in circles? Maybe actually like put these pens together and we'll sell them. Like, I don't even know. Like, make
these pens
like do child labor. Like, literally just work on this conveyor belt. Like, it's just
Greg Brown's School of Pen Organization.
Yeah, you make the big pens that then the grade 9s use. Like, there's just like something so funny because it's true. Like, their brains are crazy. Like guys, girls, everything in between. Like it's just a weird age that like, I know this is a little off topic, but I'm like, we need to just like, let's just be radical with the education system and see what happens. Because it's not working right now to the best of its ability.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots to talk about the school systems in the first place beyond sleep even, and like how they don't necessarily anymore or struggle to prepare kids for what is actually relevant in today's world. Like university as well. It's like so many people in hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt and can't get a job. But that's a different topic.
Oh, God. Yeah, okay. No, that just gave me so much anxiety. But yeah.
One last thing I wanted to bring up about like why are teenagers like this? And I know we've talked about it, but the main theory is that by evolutionarily, like having teenagers readapt their circadian rhythm to be different time, it's a chance for them to step away and be more independent from their parents. So it's literally supposed to have you offset from your parents. So by having a different sleep cycle with your peers, you get to like operate independently with your peers and start to like, not in like a full sense, like you're not going away fully, but it's like for those few hours that you're still awake and you're around your friends and you want to stay out late, like you are getting a sense of independence, which allows you to develop into like a human.
That's so funny. I love like evolutionary biology theories. I'm like, that's such
because it is like, why would that happen? Why would sleep cycles change so drastically to the point where parents like don't understand their kids and are like, why are you sleeping till 1
Okay,
p.m.?
now this is mine. Like hunter-gatherer societies, like you want the fresh, healthiest little teenagers to be up late protecting.
Maybe
while
that
you
too,
sleep with the babies. I just made that one up. But you know what I mean? Like that's my theory. It's like a 16-year-old like hunter-gatherer Neanderthal type time. Like that'd be the strongest like men and women. So they got to stay up late and protect.
Maybe, yeah.
No, this is fully made up. I'm just you know what I mean? Like that's me as an evolutionary biologist. Just doing my theory.
Wow, that's a beautiful theory.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that is one of the prominent theories behind why we have like early birds and night owls. That the distinction or the crossover between different desires to be awake at different times actually helps fill the gap for when humans are at their most vulnerable, which is when they're sleeping.
I miss puberty. Like, I know I don't, but like, I wish I could do it over with the perspective I have now because it's so fascinating. It's obviously hell when you're in it because you're like, it's all you know and you don't ever think you're going to come out of it. And it's just like embarrassing and like everything about it is like weird and you're like getting pubes and you're like,
but now
horny.
it's nostalgic.
But now that I'm like an adult and I'm like, you're going to get through it, I would love to go back and just like watch my body
I just
change.
wish I went to like an art school or something because then I feel like I know there would still be, you know, hierarchies and drama and whatever, but I just feel like.
But then you might not be ASAP science.
No, that's fair. By art school, I don't necessarily. Yeah, no, that's fair. Actually.
I think about that a lot because I also.
It's just that
wish I
like
went to art school.
the sort of like toxic masculinity that I had to face, not just in my peers, but in my teachers. I think in the administration.
But that's also Catholic.
Yeah, it's a mix. But also, we grew up in a time like I'm sure in public schools that was happening. Maybe not to the same administrative level, but like probably.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't happening at
held
administrative
beliefs.
level for me, but definitely like people were so homophobic because it was like a long time ago.
Yeah, and
But
I
I
just feel like, you know, queerness has always been more accepted in the arts space. That I just think maybe I would have actually found myself a little better, even
Yeah,
though I love
that's
science. Like
interesting.
maybe I would know myself better.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I was so mad when I became a teacher in Toronto and found out that I could have gone to an art school in Toronto. Like I would have just had to tell my parents and like I could have just gone to a different jurisdiction. Like it's not that hard. Like when I started to learn about the Toronto District
You're like,
School Board,
why
it's like,
wasn't
yeah,
I?
there's alternative schools and you just choose to go. It's not that hard. And I was like,
Right.
no one told me I
no
could do
one
this.
told me.
So I am a little bit like I missed out. But then I do think the reason I love science is my high school science teachers and my conventional high school was known for like a good science and math department. And here I am with it being my favorite thing in the world. That would have been robbed from me at an art school. I assume. Like I feel like no.
You can probably still take science at an art school, can't you?
Yeah, that'd be a really interesting story to have gone to an art school and then fall in love with science.
And what a beautiful thing to have like
Yeah.
the crossover connecting those two things.
And honestly, I bet a science teacher at an art school would be so Miss Frizzle vibes and probably
Yeah.
so good at it. There is an art school in Toronto though that like it was just like there's such drug issues. So like I don't know if that's like
The what,
like the one
sorry?
I wanted to go to was called Rosedale and like I know lots of people who went there and they're like it was really bad for drugs. Like just like I'm not saying that all artists do drugs, but like it was like
Oh my God.
And there was definitely a lot of drugs at our
Sometimes those
school.
rumors, though, I mean, I know they're probably somewhat based in truth, but like my school was also considered in the town I lived, like the more druggy school. And I'm like, was it? Like, I guess I was kind of sheltered, so I don't know. I wasn't included in any of the drug partaking. But
Maybe it's all the druggy schools are the ones where the people are starting too early. You know, like maybe
Starting
if they all
drugs too early?
slept early.
oh, like starting too early, yeah. And then they're more slippery sloping into drugs.
well, that's what they keep saying in these studies.
Whenever someone says to me like high school was the best time of their life, I'm
That's
like,
so sad. Sorry.
you peaked way too
Yeah,
early.
like that's actually really sad.
But some people say that. I'm like, you loved high school.
Wait, that is like.
But you're
so
lucky
sad.
because you have still a lot of friends from high school. I have a few, but not that many.
No, I definitely had really great friends from high school, but like we were the freaks or whatever. But like it was like great. Like I'm so happy I didn't peak in high school.
Yeah, the people who peaked are the ones that sometimes I look good on there now. And I'm like, yeah, you
Yeah.
peaked.
No. Like honestly, if you're having a good time in high school, like look out. You know what I mean? Like it's actually like you might want to like chill out a bit. You might want to
Slow
figure out how to
down.
get bullied.
True.
'Cause, like,
Oh, no.
I'm not even kidding.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be genuinely concerned if my kid's killing it in high school. I am. I'm just gonna be like, I'm gonna like put acne on. I'm gonna like rub pizza grease on their face. Or
Oh
something.
my god.
Like you cannot thrive.
Brown.
I'm just saying.
Well, hopefully they'll start school later after this podcast comes out.
Every single person, if you're a teenager, fight for this with your administration. Do a debate at school. Look into all the scientific research. Say ASAP Science taught you. If you're a parent, go to the school and start talking about it. We will be there. We will defend you. And this is
It's the best health. It's for your kids' health and
Yeah.
well-being. Like beyond even just being like smarter and getting a higher SAT score, which is like great in some capacity. It's also like to be a better functioning human who probably is more stable and has like better regulation over their emotions and those kind of things.
and
too.
empathize with your kid if they're exhausted in the morning. It's like,
Yes.
yeah, babe, this ain't right for you.
Yeah, we were all there one day.
Okay, so thanks for listening. Make
Yeah.
sure you subscribe, leave a comment, and next week, what should we do a podcast about?
Don't we already know what we're doing it about?
Oh, yeah. What is it?
Midlife crisis?
Oh,
Is that
yeah. We're doing it on midlife crisis. So interesting. And we're like, are we in one? Okay.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for listening. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.